Good morning and welcome to Mobile Device Manager Plus training. Before I can start off, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Achudan and I'm happy to be your trainer for today. Mobile Device Manager Plus training program is a 3-week training program aimed to facilitate better understanding of all the features that MDM has on offer. We are in week 1 today, where we'll be covering device onboarding and provisioning. In case you want to know further details about our training program, you can visit this short link, ManageEngine.com/MDM- So this option make the device usage ready for employees, ensuring that the employees have minimal learning curve once the devices have been basic supported by MDM to ensure that the devices can be used immediately on handover. The video that we'll be seeing is containerizing corporate data. So there can exist both corporate as well as personal devices in an enterprise, and both these devices will have equal access to corporate data. In such a scenario, there are high chances that the personal data might mix up or the personal apps get to access the corporate data. So solutions provided by MDM to containerize the corporate data. The last scenario that we'll be seeing is restricting unauthorized access to corporate exchange accounts. As you all know, Exchange is one of the most common mailboxes used in enterprise, and this contains a lot of confidential emails. So we are going to see the solutions provided by MDM to ensure that only those who have been granted access can have access to the corporate exchange accounts. This will be followed by a quick look at few other scenarios and their solutions. In case you have got, please don't hesitate to post it on chat. We have got an expert panel waiting here, ready to answer your questions. So let us start off Mobile Device Manager Plus. This will help those who are unfamiliar with the product. Mobile Device Manager Plus can be in smartphones and tablets running on iOS, Android, and Windows platform. In addition to that, it lets you manage MacBooks and Apple TVs, as well as Windows, Surface Pros, and Surface Hubs. In addition to this, MDM also lets you manage Chrome OS devices. MDM is available as an add-on to ManageEngine Desktop Central, our flagship unified endpoint management solution that is currently available on premises. In case you wish to manage only smartphones, tablets, and Windows machines, as well as you can opt for the standalone Mobile Device Manager Plus that is available both on premises as well as on cloud. For those of you, a dedicated MSP version of the standalone MDM product, which is called as Mobile Device Manager Plus MSP. This too is available on premises and on cloud. Now we understand that MDM's capabilities is vast and can be put to great use in an enterprise. Thus, MDM comes pre-integrated with a lot of different applications. For example, in case of help desk applications, you can integrate with ManageEngine's own help desk solutions, Service Desk Plus. You can integrate with Spiceworks, Jira Service Desk, Zendesk support, as well as ServiceNow. In addition to this, MDM also integrates with a lot of business process automation applications such as Zoho Creative and Zoho CRM. In case you integrate MDM with another application that you can opt for our publicly available third-party APIs. For more details about this, you can visit this link, ManageEngine.com/MDM-API. Now let us try to understand the MDMP architecture. This will provide you with a wholesome idea about how the product actually works. As you can see, the MDM server consists of 3 important components, namely the MDM server, the cloud messaging service, as well as the managed devices. As you can see, the MDM server doesn't directly contact the managed devices. Instead, it contacts the messaging service, which in turn wakes up the device, after which the devices contact the server. As you can see, this is platform specific with Apple Push Notifications Service or APNS for Apple, File-based Cloud Messaging or FCM for Android, and Windows Notification Service or WNS for Windows. As the devices to be managed are mobile and are always on the go, you have your MDM server NATed to the external network so that these devices can access the server and can be managed at all times. In case you're worried about exposing your server to external networks such as the internet, configure Secure Gateway. Secure Gateway, as the name suggests, ensures that all the incoming communications are routed through the secure gateway before it can actually reach the MDM server. You can also have the Active Directory integrated with the MDM server for authentication purpose. So this on premises, in case you are opting for MDM Cloud, you need not worry about any of these. As seen previously, a lot of communication is required for management, and ports basically facilitate this communication. For example, the device to MDMP server communication happens on the secure HTTP channel using port 9383. In case of the MDMP server to notification services, the port 443 is used, and the device to notification services uses these ports. To know the complete details about all ports and domains, you can visit this link, ManageEngine.com/MDM-ports. Now, you must be wondering as to how MDM actually manages devices. So in case of Apple, Windows, and Chrome devices, it leverages the native client that is present on the device for management. In case of Android devices, you need to have the agent app, which is the ME-MDM app, installed on the device for management. That brings us to the end of the overview. So before we get into the first scenario, let me show you a quick walkthrough of the product. So let me take you to the MDMP server. So this is the MDMP server and the home page. As you can see, it provides you high-level details about the number of devices that are yet to be enrolled, as well as the enrolled users, as well as inactive devices. Inactive devices here refers to those devices which have not contacted the MDM server over a period of time. In addition to that, we have got useful graphs that tell you about the device level breakdown as to whether the devices enrolled are smartphones, tablets, or desktop machines. Similarly, you have got a graph for platform summary, app summaries as to whether the apps are approved by the enterprise or not, and similarly, the ownership type, whether these devices are corporate devices or personal. Similarly, on the home page, you have got the audit log feed, which lists all the actions that have been performed on the MDM server and who has performed these actions. So this is the home tab. The next tab is the device management tab, and as the name explains, this tab is used for performing actions on the MDM server. This can include pushing configurations, documents, and a whole lot of other things. We'll be looking at all the actions during our 3-week training session. The next tab is the inventory tab, and this includes basic info right from the OS version to the platforms, serial number, IMEI. The entire lot of information will be stored in the inventory tab. Next up, we'll be having the enrollment tab, which we'll be covering at greater detail during this session. So I'll just drop this one up. And next up, we have got the reports tab. So all the information that is present in the inventory can be as reports. And this is basically the page where you can do it. MDM already has 10+ predefined reports which can be scheduled, and you can create reports of your own. So this is the brain of the MDM server, the admin tab. So all these settings as well as useful links will be available here from where you can access any important feature on the MDM server. Lastly, this is the support tab. This provides you with documentation, forums, blogs, and how you can contact the server. With the introduction about the MDM server done, let us go back to the presentation and take on the first scenario, which is enrolling mobile devices. Enrolling is the process of onboarding the devices onto the MDM solution. Assume I am an IT administrator of an organization, Silker, with a predominant mobile-only workforce. Now I have decided to use Mobile Device Manager Plus for my device management use. Now these devices which I wish to manage might be already in use. That is, these devices might have already been handed over to the employees' corporate devices, or the employees might be bringing their own devices. So these are the devices that are already in use. And I might have new devices. These are fresh unboxed devices that are still in the inventory that are going to be later handed over to the employees as and when they come in. Let us see what kind of enrollment options are available for both these device categories. So first up, we are going to look at enrollment options that are available for devices that are already in use. In such a case, MDM provides you with two different options. The first one is enrolling devices through email invites, and the second option is self-enrollment. Now, before we look into both these methods in greater detail, let us try to understand the benefits. The first benefit is that it lets you isolate your personal and corporate workspaces. This is most important in case of personal devices. You would obviously want the personal space to remain in a separate site and the corporate space to remain isolated, so that the personal apps and data do not overlap with the corporate data. This is possible in using enrollment via invites and self-enrollment. The second benefit is that it restricts the sharing of corporate data. This is once again a benefit for extensive personal device use enterprises. So in case of enterprises that extensively use personal devices, there are chances that the corporate data might get shared. So enrolling devices via invites and self-enrollment restricts this. The last benefit is that it lets you prevent unauthorized data access. So we'll be looking at all these benefits and how to achieve these benefits using MDM during this 3-week training session. So with the benefits out of the way, let me show you how the process actually happens. So I'll take you back to the MDM server. I'll click on enrollment. Now, before we start off, there's one prerequisite in case you wish to manage or enroll Apple devices, which is it requires an APNS certificate to be uploaded. As you may recall, APNS is the communication service that is used by the MDM server to wake up Apple devices. So once you upload an APNS certificate, you will be shown all these details like the Apple ID that has been used and when the certificate was created and when it expires. As you can see from here, the APNS certificate has an expiry of 1 year, and in case you want to receive notifications prior to the certificate expiry, you can provide an email address for this purpose. It is recommended that you give a common corporate email address instead of a personal email address, so that even in case of expiry, it is not the responsibility of the employee, but anyone who has access to the email address can use to renew. So once you have uploaded the APNS certificate, the next step is to start enrolling the devices. So let us see how that is done. So I'll click on the devices tab from the left pane, and I'll be enrolling an Apple device in this case. So I'll click on enroll device and select Apple. So I'll be enrolling an iOS device. So here there are two options. In case you want to immediately test out the capabilities of MDM and you already have a device in your hand, or otherwise the employees have handed over devices to you, the IT administrator, for the devices to be enrolled and then given back to them, you can opt for this option, by myself. So as the option name explains, here the enrollment is done by the IT administrator. You have already provided an email address, and these devices can either be a personal device or a corporate device. Now there's one more advantage here. You can choose to assign these devices to particular groups. So what do I refer to by groups here is that most enterprises will have a lot of departments like the sales department, the HR. So in such a case, the employees that are under these departments will obviously have a common set of configurations as well as apps. So you can create a group and ensure that any device that gets added to the particular group gets automatically pushed with the configurations as well as the apps pertaining to that department. For example, the sales department has 2 configurations that need to be pushed and 3 apps that need to be pushed. You can create a group called a sales department configurations as well as the 3 apps to the group, and then anytime a device gets added to this particular group, all the previously associated configurations as violently distributed to the devices without any user intervention. So you can create a group by clicking on this link. Now, in case you decide that you will just send the email invites to the users and have them enroll the devices, you can select this option through user invites. So here the users can either be local users, for example, contract employees that have not been added to your Active Directory domain, or can be domain users. So if in case you select a domain user, you'll have to select the domain and then provide the username. Now in this case, I'm gonna have a local user's device enrolled. So I'll select that and provide a name. So let me just quickly provide a name. And then I'll select the ownership type and then assign them to a group if need be. Let me show you how the invite will be. So I'll just click on next here. So this enrollment request is created, and this is the mail goes on the by myself option. In case you choose the option through user invites, the same details will be sent as the mail. All the users need to do is just scan this QR code to initiate enrollment process or open this URL. and provide OTP if and when prompted. This OTP will ensure that only the user to whom the invite has been sent enrolls this device. Now let us see what happens on the device end. So this is the basic process as I just explained. The admin sends the invite to the user, after which the user accepts the invitation. He can choose to either scan the QR code or access the enrollment URL, after which the device gets registered with MDM. So this is the process. Once you need to click on continue to initiate the enrollment process. Step is that a configuration profile is installed. As you may remember, in case of iOS devices, you do not require an agent app for management. Instead, this configuration profile will leverage the native MDM APIs for management. Now I'll click on allow, and then the profile gets downloaded. And once the download is done, it is available on the settings tab. Now you click on this profile downloaded option. As you can see, you need to install the profile. The details pertaining to the profile is available here. This profile has been signed by mobiledevicemanagerplus.com and what all this contains. So since we are going to install this profile for mobile device management, that is mentioned here. Then you'll have to click on trust for the enrollment to complete. Now, what happens once the enrollment is completed? So we'll take you back to the MDM server. Click on the devices tab. All devices that have been enrolled will be listed here. As you can see, these are the enrolled devices. And the enrollment type will also be mentioned. And this view includes all devices from all platforms. These can include iOS, Android, and Windows devices. Now, what are some of the requirements with respect to enrollment by invite? So these invites, as I mentioned before, are specific to individual users and devices. So this authentication is done by means of OTP or Active Directory authentication. And similarly, the OTP is time bound and expires within 7 days. So having sent the enrollment, you have the enrollment done within 7 days. Now you must be wondering, do I need to keep sending one invite after the other? What happens in case I've got a very large organization? So we have got that sorted for you. You can send enrollment invites in bulk. So let me quickly explain that. As you can see, there's this option bulk enrollment that is available under the enrollment tab. Now, when I click on this, I'll need to upload a CSV file containing the basic details that are required to create an enrollment invite. This can be the username, domain name, as well as the platform type, and even the group name if need be. You can have an example CSV that you can download to see how the CSV should be. So once you have added the basic device details, you need to upload the CSV file here, and MDM will automatically send enrollment invites based on the details you have given on the CSV file. This ensures that all you need to do is only upload the employee details while the invites will be sent by the MDM server itself. Now you must be wondering, is there any simpler way? How about I don't even have this process of uploading the CSV file? What if the users can enroll the device by themselves? Yes, MDM has got an option for that, which is self-enrollment. Self-enrollment, as the name suggests, ensures that the users enroll the devices by themselves. Now let me show you how this is done on the MDM server. So I'll click on self-enrollment from the left menu. And this is the self-enrollment settings tab. So self-enrollment uses Active Directory credentials as so self-enrollment is applicable only in case you have added an AD and the users are a part of your AD groups. So you can choose to allow self-enrollment for all AD groups, or in case you want this privilege only for specific departments, say like only the managers can have their devices enrolled via self-enrollment, you can choose to have this option selected AD groups and select the AD group pertaining to the managers. Or otherwise, you want this option to be exercised by all employees, but exclude a specific subset of your employees group and choose to exclude specific groups by selecting this option, exclude specific groups. Similarly, to avoid having this problem where a single user keeps enrolling devices one after the other via self-enrollment, you can choose to restrict the devices permitted per user. So if you put this option as 3, a user can enroll only 3 devices via self-enrollment. This ensures that users enroll their devices themselves and do not have this outsourced. Similarly, Since this enrollment happens without the administrator's knowledge, it is imperative that the administrator gets notified anytime a device gets enrolled. To do that, you need to provide an email address here. So once you have provided this email address will be notified anytime a device gets enrolled with MDM via self-enrollment. We already saw about assigning devices to by invites in section as well. In case you want Apple devices that are being handed over by the enterprise to the employees to fall into the group sales department, you can do that. In case of personal Android devices, you want them to fall into the marketing department. So basically, you create conditions here and ensure that devices enrolled via self-enrollment fall into the appropriate groups. Now you can create conditions, more conditions if you want. So how will the enrollment process actually happen? So this is how it will happen. You need to copy the self-enrollment URL that is present here, forums and messaging boards. Now the employees will access this self-enrollment URL and initiate the self-enrollment process. So let me explain what happens on the device end. So I'll take you back. Now I click on premises here and provide the server details, the MDM server name, the port, as well as the email ID. So this is the email ID directory. And once I've done that, I'll click on continue. And then I'll provide by AD username, password, as well as select the domain name. This is the validation process for self-enrollment. And then I'll click on continue again for the enrollment process to be initiated. Now I'll activate device administrator and then I'll complete the enrollment. Similar to what I explained previously, once devices get enrolled via self-enrollment, they will be shown on the common enrollment view, which I just showed you. Now, this brings us to the end of that are already in use. Now, you must be wondering as to why we divided the enrollment part into two categories: enrolling devices that are already in use and enrolling new devices. Now, assuming we use the existing methods, that is enrollment via invites and self-enrollment, there are going to be two issues. The first one is that the IT administrator needs to complete the initial setup manually to even initiate enrollment. The initial setup here refers to the number of initial screens that are shown for the user to configure before they can start using the device. And similarly, as we just saw, there is some amount of is required to either initiate and or complete the enrollment process. So in case of large organizations that deal with, say, 5,000 or 10,000 devices, this process is going to be cumbersome. The solution for any repeated process is automation. And yes, MDM does allow you to automate enrollment. In case of Apple devices, Apple MDM, and case of Android devices, you can use zero-touch enrollment or ZTE. These are the programs that have been provided by Apple and Google, respectively, to efficiently enroll devices in bulk with minimal admin and user intervention. We'll be looking at both of these methods in greater detail. But before that, let us try to understand the benefits. The first benefit is that it promotes silent app installation. So no more adding Apple ID or your Google account to the devices, no more requesting users to install the applications. All corporate apps can be silently installed on the devices, irrespective of whether there's an account added or not. All the administrator needs to do is just click on the MDM server and the apps will silently get installed on the device. The second benefit is that you can whitelist apps on devices. As an enterprise that deals with security and privacy, you wouldn't want a lot of unapproved apps to exist on the devices. So what you can whitelist certain apps on the device, certain enterprise apps on the device, and ensure that the other apps cannot be installed, or if they get installed, can be removed. This ensures that the corporate data present on the device is not accessed in an unauthorized manner. And similarly, you can also ensure that productivity stays at its maximum. So these benefits will be explained at a greater depth in the subsequent training sessions. But in case you want to know how you can achieve this immediately, you can drop in a line in our chat and we can have a personalized demo arranged for you at a date and time of your convenience, and we'll explain how all of these benefits can be achieved. Next step is that you can also choose to manage OS updates. A lot of times OS updates can have important security patches, and instead of actually waiting for the users to manually update the OS, you can have the OS update silently updated on the device without any user intervention. Last benefit is that it provides you full support for profiles and configurations. When you enroll devices with Apple Business Manager, these devices become supervised. And similarly, in case of Android devices, when you enroll devices with zero-touch enrollment, these devices become fully managed device. So these two enrollment types ensure that the devices have extensive additional support for various different profiles as well as configurations. Now, before we try to understand these methods in greater detail, let us try to understand the prerequisites first. The first basic prerequisite is that you need to create an account with Apple in case you want to manage Apple devices or manage the devices which you wish to enroll must be purchased either directly or from authorized resellers. Let us first try to understand enrollment. First up, you need to integrate these portals, say the Apple Business Manager portal or the Zero Touch Enrollment portal with the MDM server. And then you'll add devices to the portal. As the portal and the MDM server have been integrated in the previous step, when you add devices to the portal, you're essentially adding the devices to the MDM server. These are admin performed and are one-time. Once you've added device, hand over the device which gets enrolled on activation. So these can be performed either by the administrator or by the user. So let us first start off with Apple Business Manager enrollment. So on the MDM server, click on the enrollment tab and select Apple enrollment from the left menu. To initiate the integration process, you need to first download the MDM public key. So you can see when you click on this link, you'll have a certificate file downloaded. So this certificate file needs to be uploaded on the ABM portal to initiate the integration. Once you've done that, you need to go to the Apple Business Manager portal. Once you have gone there, click on settings and click on device management settings and click on add MDM server. So this process creates a virtual MDM server on the ABM portal. So this virtual server will be mapped to your actual MDM instance, and any device that gets added to this virtual MDM server will implicitly get added to your actual MDM server instance as well. So I'll click on add MDM server. Now I need to provide a server name so that I can identify which server it's getting mapped to. Now once I've provided is to upload the public key that I downloaded from the MDM server. So I'll do that, and once I do that, I need to generate. So I'll click on save and I click on download token. The purpose for downloading this token is to complete the integration process. So you initiate the integration process by uploading the MDM public key certificate, and you complete the integration process by downloading the MDM server token from the ABM portal and uploading it back on the MDM server. So I'll click on download token, then click on download server token again. So it'll take you back to the MDM server where I'll upload server token from the Apple Business Manager. Similar to Apple push notification certificate, APNS certificate, this too expires within a year, and to receive notification prior to the server token expiry, you need to provide an email address. You've done that, click on upload. Now, the first issue that we saw with enrolling devices with the existing enrollment, complete the initial setup steps manually to even have the enrollment done. So how do the automated enrollment helps you avoid all of this? The answer lies here. Skip these configurations during device setup. So all of us must have activated an Apple device at some point of time. So when you power on the device for first time, there are going to be 10 to 15 initial setup steps which the users need to manually fill in before devices. When you try and enroll devices using Apple Business Manager, you can choose to avoid all of these setup steps or some of these setup steps. In case you want the user ID and the iOS devices, you can select only that option and ensure that all the other setup steps are skipped. Or in case you want all of these setup steps to be skipped, you can simply select this option, select all. And once that is done, there'll be absolutely no initial setup steps shown, and the device will be ready for usage, powered on. Similarly, there's one more option. When you enroll devices via invite or self-enrollment, the users are automatically assigned to the devices, because that's how the self-enrollment process actually happens. In case of ABM, we have further automated this process whereby the users can auto-assign the devices to themselves by using AD authentication. So when you select this option, yes, users need to provide their AD domain name and username based on which the device gets automatically assigned to that particular user, further automating the process and ensuring minimal admin intervention. Now, what happens in case the administrator wants to manually assign the devices? Got an option for that as well. So I'll take you back to the MDM server and click on Apple Enrollment. So once you have done the enrollment, all the devices will be available here. And here you can manually choose to assign the users. You can either choose to assign users on a device-to-device basis by clicking on this option under action, or you can choose to assign them in bulk by selecting this option. So you must split this process, which wasn't done in case of enrollment by invites or the self-enrollment. Both are ideal for new devices that are already in the inventory. So the IT administrator can choose to have all the devices in the inventory enroll well in advance, and as and when the employees join the organization, and choose to assign the user and hand it over, thus simplifying the process during employee onboarding. Now you find, but how does the device addition actually happens? Let me show you how the device addition is actually done. But before that, let us try to understand what happens once you have added the server. So we created the server Zilker SFO on the ABM portal, and as you can see, the server name has been added. So once you start adding devices, the devices will be shown here, and for the devices to be constantly synced with the MDM server. As you might remember, you add devices to the virtual MDM instance, and these get added to the actual server. So this happens based on a sync schedule. So the sync details will be available here, and you can choose to have it done during the automatic sync, which is initiated once every 24 hours. Now let us see about the device addition part. So I take you back to the ABM portal, click on settings, and click on device management settings. So as you can remember, one of the basic prerequisites is that the devices must be purchased either directly or from resellers. In case you have purchased the devices from Apple resellers, the Apple customer number, this is the number provided by Apple that uniquely identifies your enterprise, as well as your reseller ID. This refers to the DP reseller ID that has been provided by Apple to the reseller from whom you purchased the devices. Let me show you how that is done. So as you can see, I've already added a customer number. Now I add a DP reseller ID. So once I reseller ID, anytime a device is purchased from this reseller, themselves can take care of adding the devices to the MDM to the virtual MDM server, which then gets added to our actual MDM server, thereby further automating the process. You must be wondering as to what happens to the devices that I've already purchased. In this case, you'll have to add the devices manually, and these devices can be added either by providing the serial number or the order number, or by uploading a CSV file that contains the device details. To do that, assignments from the left pane. Now, once you do that, I've provided the serial number. Now I need to assign this device to a particular MDM server. As you may remember, we already created a virtual MDM server called Zilker SFO. Now I assign it to that particular server and click on done. So with that, the user assignment is complete. And once I power on the device will automatically get added to our actual MDM server. So click on OK. Now let us see what happens on the device end. As you can see, the organization name is shown, and this will be that the enterprise is going to configure, the company is going to configure your iPhone. Then you'll click on next, and then the profile gets installed. So this profile contains details regarding the MDM server. Using the device will contact the MDM server to have itself enrolled. As you can see, there were no initial setup steps. It's ready for usage. Now let us try to understand zero touch enrollment. This is Apple Business Manager. So firstly, I need to create a configuration. So I'll select configuration from the left menu and click on this plus button. Now here I need to provide a name and ensure that under EMM DPC, it is managing MDM that is selected. Now I need to provide a JSON file under the option DPC extras. This JSON file contains the server details which the device will require once it's powered on to have itself enrolled. Let me show you where these DPC extra details will be available. I'll take you back to the MDM server. Click on zero touch enrollment. I'll show you the enrollment steps. So this is the DPC extras that needs to be pasted on the zero touch portal. So let me take you back there. So once you have done that, you need to provide other basic details like your company name as well as your contact email. Then you'll click on apply. So all the devices will be associated this particular configuration. Now, similar to Apple Business Manager, you have this option of adding the resellers. When you click on the resellers tab, you need to provide information related to your resellers. And anytime you purchase Android devices from these particular resellers, resellers can themselves add the device, after which the default configuration that you have selected here will automatically get applied to these devices, and thus the devices will be automatically enrolled on the device getting powered on with minimal user and admin intervention. So let me show you what happens on the device. And once you power it on for the first time, it will ask you to set up the device. During setup, the Managing MDM app will be installed. As you may remember, in case of Android devices, you need to have the MDM app on the device for management purpose. I'll click on accept and continue. And this will be set up as work device. Work device or fully managed device, as I just explained, provides the IT administrator with additional control over the device. Now let me click on finish to complete the enrollment process. This brings us to the end of the enrollment scenario. Let me have a quick recap. We split the devices into two different categories. One is devices that are already in use, and the other is the new devices. In case of devices that are already in use, it is ideal that you use email invites or self-enrollment. I forgot to mention that we also support invites via SMS in case of MDM Cloud. Similarly, in case of new devices, you can split it based on platform. In case of Apple devices, you can use ABM or ASM. There's another option called as Apple Configurator. In case of Android, we saw zero-touch enrollment, but you've got additional methods like NFC, Knox, and EMM token. And we also support Windows, as I previously explained. In case of Windows, we have got ICD enrollment as well as autopilot. The ones in the green were the one that I explained, but MDM has also got plenty of other methods. We start explaining, it's going to go on and on. So in case you're curious about the other enrollment options, we'll be happy to give you a personalized demo on how these enrollment methods work. In case that would be interested, you can drop in a line on our chat and we'll arrange a demo for you at a date and time of your convenience. Let us jump into the second scenario, which is provisioning mobile devices. So having enrolled the mobile device, the next obvious step is to ensure that the basic device configurations have been preset on the device to ensure that the device is usage ready on handover. You do not want the users to keep configuring the devices before they can actually start using. Basic configurations like the password, Wi-Fi, VPN, if they get pre-configured on enrollment, it'll be easy for the users to start using the device from the word go. Now let us see what all provisions are provided by MDM to have basic configurations on the device. So let me take you to the MDM server. So for this purpose, I'll be creating a profile. So I'll click on device management from the top menu and select profiles. Now I'll be creating an Apple profile, but you can also create an Android, Windows, or Chrome profile if you want. You can provide a meaningful name, Apple Basic, and I'll click on continue. So these are all the policies that are supported for Apple. All these policies can be configured and bundled into a single profile and then be distributed to the devices. So the basic level of security for any device is a passcode profile. So you can choose to define your own passcode policy. This can either have simple value, or in case you want a strong password to be set, you can have an alphanumeric value. You can choose to define everything from the passcode length to a number of special characters that need to be used as well. So this is the case of passcode requirement. In case you do not want any passcode to be set, for example, this is a shared device and you do not want users to set up a passcode by mistake, you can ensure that no passcode is set, as well as any initial passcode that was set can be removed as well. So this is additional option, but let us come back to our main focus, which is setting up a passcode on the device. So in addition to that, you can choose to also configure a whole lot of other granular details, number of failed attempts. For example, if the passcode is provided wrongly for 3 times, the device will automatically be wiped. This ensures that there is no brute force attacking or guessing of passcodes. You can choose to restrict users from changing the passcode. This is once again in case of shared devices, and you can also ensure that the users regularly change their passcode by providing a passcode age. Now let us see what happens once I have configured everything. So I'll click on save and I'll click on publish. Now once I have published this profile, I need to associate it. So I'll click on this link. You can associate these to either groups or devices, but it's recommended that you first associate it to a device, see if it works fine, and then distribute it to groups. So I select devices, select a particular device. Let me quickly search for an Apple device, then click on action, associate profile. So let me select an associate created profile and then select. So now this profile will be associated to this device. So you must be wondering as to what happens once the profile has been associated. How will you know whether the profile has been applied or not? Simply, you just click on the device name to which you associated a profile. And as you can see here, you will have details regarding the profile. So as you can see, these profiles are yet to be applied because the device is not online, and automatically when the device comes online, this profile will be applied to the device as seen in the remarks. So from here, you can know whether the profile has been applied. So what happens once the profile gets applied on the device? Let me show you what happens on the device. In case of passcode profile, the user will be mandated to set up a passcode within 60 minutes, beyond which if he doesn't set, he or she cannot use the device. Let us see what are the basic configurations are available. So I'll take you back to the MDM server, click on profiles. So let us just modify. In case you want to configure a Wi-Fi policy for the devices, you need to provide the Wi-Fi SSID, which is the Wi-Fi name. So let me say corp. And whenever the device is within this Wi-Fi connection vicinity, if you wanted to connect automatically this Wi-Fi network, you can configure that. Everything from the security type to in case it requires a passcode, all of this can be set up. In case you want your Wi-Fi proxy to be also distributed remote using MDM, you can choose to configure that as well. You can choose to set up either a manual proxy where you provide all the proxy details, or in case you've got a proxy PAC file, that is the proxy auto configuration file, you can choose the automatic proxy setting and provide the server URL here. Now, in case of a mobile-only environment, there are high chances that the users need to access corporate data outside the enterprise premises. Now, this might include accessing the corporate data over in unsecured networks or over unapproved networks, basically. So in such a case, you would want to access corporate data. You would want the corporate data to be accessed through VPN connection, which is virtual private network. This ensures that even in case of public networks, a private network, a logical private network is created through which the communication happens. This ensures that there is no way any kind of snooping can be done on the public network, and there is no way the data can be accessed in an unauthorized manner. So here, once again, your MDM supports a whole lot of different VPN connection type, right from Citrix VPN to FI access to SonicWall. So you just need to select the connection type and provide the relevant details, the server name and IP address. So vpn.silka.com. And you can have this VPN set up on demand as well. You can either have VPN set up for the entire device, or in case you want the VPN to be applied only when accessing certain web services, you can provide the URLs of these web services here to ensure that whenever these web services are accessed, the VPN gets automatically enabled without any user intervention. So in addition to having VPN specifically for web services, there's an option of setting up VPN only for particular apps. So all you need to do is provide the app names here, say Zoho Click and Zoho Books. Anytime these apps are being used on the mobile device, you want the communication to happen only via VPN. We have the option for per app VPN as well. So similarly, you can also configure email. Email is the most basic form of communication, and you would have certain email. You might have an authentication type for the incoming mail and outgoing, and similarly, you would want to use encryption, you can use S-MIME for encryption. So all of these can be simply configured here without requiring the users to manually configure. As you know, sending an email to a user and asking them to set up the email might be a tedious process. So instead, you can have all these granular details, right? From how to secure the mail communication using SSL, how to encrypt it using S-MIME, all of these can be completely configured here, right? From the account type, whether it's an IMAP or a POP account, right? From email signature, everything can be completely configured right here. In addition to email, you can also configure Exchange. So in case you're using O365, you can select that option, or in case you're using Exchange on premises, you select that option, provide your server detail, and then provide all other requisite details. So you must be wondering, email is going to be unique for all of the users. So do I keep creating one profile for each user? No, you certainly need not do that. What you can instead do is use dynamic variables. As you can see here, the parameter is username, and instead of providing an actual username, I have provided the dynamic variable %UPN%. This ensures that the parameter, the value associated to the parameter username, is dynamically fetched during profile association from the enrollment detail. This means all need to do is just using that. Once you have done that, you need to click on save and publish. Now, as you can see, we've got a whole lot of other policies. I will not be explaining all of these. We'll be explaining some of them during subsequent training sessions. So once you have done that, you publish this profile and then associate it to devices or groups, as I just explained. Now let us look at the second sub scenario, which is securing corporate data on personal devices. So we have already seen, in case of corporate devices, you can have complete control of the device, so you can set up any kind of policies you want. But what happens on personal devices? Obviously, personal devices, there are higher chance of data breach. You can have the airdrop shared via Bluetooth, or use any Wi-Fi apps to share information. Similarly, you can have the data saved. You can have the data saved. You can have the data saved on third-party storage services. And similarly, you can have the data shared between. You can have the data shared between apps as well. Now, what happens in such a scenario? You can have personal devices and corporate devices coexisting with the same device, and that can lead to a lot of problems. So the solution to this is containerization. Containerization ensures that you isolate your personal and your corporate data, and the IT administrator or the enterprise has complete control over the corporate space while having zero control over the personal space. This ensures security as well as privacy. What happens without containerization? Before I show that, let me show you what happens in case of Android devices. In case of Android devices, when you enroll devices as managed work profile, containerization is automatically implemented, and the work apps exist separately. There's a logical container that gets created. So there'll be two instances of the same app. In case you use Gmail for both your personal as well as your work purpose, the work app will be indicated by an orange or a blue briefcase icon. So this app can be used for managing only corporate data, whereas the personal version will be used for handling the personal Gmail account. Now, what happens in case you do not have containerization implemented? Now, this, as you can see, is an email that contains a corporate attachment. Now I'm trying to access this corporate attachment. As you can see, this is the options that are available. I can choose to airdrop this corporate attachment, or I can choose to access it using personal apps, or I can choose to access it using corporate apps as well. This is not an ideal scenario for an enterprise, because their data might get shared to third-party services or can be accessed using personal apps. So though iOS devices do not provide containerization by default, you can use MDM policies to achieve containerization. Now, let me show you how this is done. So I'll take you back to the MDM server and click on restrictions. Firstly, I would want to restrict airdrop as well as AirPrint. In case you want to go further granular, you can go and restrict screenshots as well. Now let me jump onto the security tab and see what other options we have. Data from managed apps to be accessed by unmanaged apps, so I restrict that, and it's safe that you have the opposite option, that is sharing data from unmanaged apps to managed apps restricted as well. So I've done that too. Let me click on advanced security. So I can choose to restrict addition of iCloud and mail accounts. I can choose to restrict USB connections as well. So I just restrict that. And similarly, I can choose to restrict connection of USB flash drives as well if need be. Now let us go further granular, network and roaming. So I'll choose to restrict Bluetooth as well. So basically, I've restricted any ways by which the data, the corporate data, can be shared from the device to other devices as well as third-party services. So what happens once I create this policy and associate it to the device? A different workaround version of containerization is created. So we'll see what happens. This was before containerization, and once I apply containerization, you can see that only corporate apps can be used to access the email attachment. Which brings us to another scenario, which is securing corporate emails from unauthorized access. So all along, we have seen how to distribute email profiles and how to secure them through containerization. Now, assume this case, the user, he or she knows their username and password for the Exchange email account. So they can use it in any device, and this device need not be managed by MDM. So in such a case, there is no way you can secure the device, because this device is of course not managed by MDM, and thus it will not have the enterprise security policies implemented on it. Though you cannot secure devices that are not being managed by MDM, you can try to restrict the other end, which is the Exchange mailboxes. You can ensure that only approved devices can access the Exchange mailboxes. This can be done using conditional Exchange access. Let me quickly explain about conditional Exchange access. Firstly, you integrate the Exchange, your Exchange account, your Exchange mailboxes with the MDM server by providing your server details. And then you enforce the conditional Exchange access policy. These are admin performed and one time. Once you enforce this policy, only devices that have been enrolled with MDM, which is essentially devices that are being managed or approved devices, will get access to Exchange. Now let me show you how to configure conditional Exchange access on the MDM server. So I'll click on device management from the top menu and select conditional Exchange access. Now I'll provide the host type. This can be either Exchange Online or on premises. So I'll be selecting Office 365 in this option, and the server name is automatically prefetched. I'll provide the username and password. This is required for syncing the Exchange mailboxes from your Exchange account to the MDM server. So click on next. As you can see, there are 7 devices that have not been enrolled with MDM that are continuing to access Exchange accounts. So how do you restrict them? By configuring a conditional Exchange access policy. So I click on configure now. Now you can choose to apply this policy for all users, or you can choose to apply it for select users and give others the privilege of continuing to access their Exchange accounts from any devices. Or you can select all users and exclude specific users as well. Now you need to provide a grace period during which the users can continue to access Exchange accounts from any device, but they'll receive a notification that after the grace period expires, they can no longer access the Exchange mailboxes from these devices. They can access them only after enrollment. So in this case, I've chosen to provide 3 days grace period. And then I'll click on apply policy. As you can see, the policy has been applied successfully. Now, as you can see, these devices have been completely restricted access to the Exchange mailboxes. So how do they regain access? They can do so by using the self-enrollment URL and have their devices enrolled back. So once you have it enrolled into MDM, you'll automatically regain access to the Exchange mailboxes. So this brings us to the end of the third scenario as well. In case you've got any queries regarding the first 3 scenarios, you can post it on chat. As I said before, we have got an expert panel waiting to answer your questions. Now let me explain a few other scenarios and their solutions. So the first scenario is that, can we enroll devices not purchased from authorized resellers into Apple Business Manager? As you may remember, the first prerequisite for enrolling devices into Apple Business Manager was that these devices need to be purchased either directly or from authorized reseller. So if that not being the case, what do? There's a workaround for that, which you use Apple Configurator. Apple Configurator is a free program provided by Apple for enrolling devices. So what you do is install Apple Configurator on your Mac machine, connect the devices via USB, and once you start to prepare the devices, which is a step to enroll the devices using Apple Configurator, there'll be this option shown, add to device enrollment program. Device enrollment program was the previous name for Apple Business Manager. Purchased from Apple Business Manager. It will be enrolled into a different virtual server on the ABM, after which you need to move the device from this created virtual MDM server to the virtual MDM server that you have created. So once you do that, the device on activation will be automatically enrolled with your MDM server. Now, the second section is the benefits of zero touch enrollment, but some of my devices are not supported. How do I enroll these devices? So zero touch enrollment was a very latest advancement with respect to Google devices, and not all devices support these. But as you know, zero touch enrollment has got its own set of benefits, like having the devices provisioned as fully managed device, which provides administrators with additional control. You obviously want this option, but might not have devices that support zero touch enrollment. So is there a workaround for this one? Most certainly there's a workaround for this, which is EMM token enrollment. So when you're powering on the device and you're prompted for a user account, instead of providing a usual email account, you need to provide this DPC identifier, which is known as AFW-ME-MDM. Once you do that and click on next, you'll be asked to scan a QR code. So what QR code needs to be scanned? I'll just explain that. I'll take you back to the MDM server, click on enrollment. And I'll click on EMM token enrollment. Now this is the QR code that needs to be scanned. So similar to the self-enrollment URL, this needs to be shared to the users as well. So once they click on scan QR and scan this particular QR code, the devices will get provisioned as fully managed device, and thus will enjoy all the benefits similar to the devices that have been enrolled with zero touch enrollment. So you can achieve zero touch enrollment using EMM token enrollment as well. Now the third scenario is what happens when you push to contradictory profile to a device. So in such a scenario, in case of Windows and iOS devices, the most secure combination is preferred, and in case of Android, the latest is preferred. So let me explain this with an example. Assuming you associate a profile which has the passcode length as 8 and the camera is enabled, and then you associate another profile where the passcode length is 6 and the camera is restricted. So in case of iOS and Windows devices, it will take the passcode length from the first policy, because longer the passcode is going to be difficult to crack, and thus is going to be more secure. And similarly, it will take the camera, because once again, restricting camera will make the device much more secure and less prone to any kind of data attack. In case of Android devices, the latest profile will be applied, which means when you push the first profile, the minimum passcode length was 8 and the camera was allowed. When you push the second profile, the minimum passcode length will change to 6 and the camera will be restricted. Thus, to recap, in case of iOS and Windows, the most secure combination is preferred, and in case of Android, the most recent policy is preferred. Now the fourth scenario, how can we ensure users connect only to the Wi-Fi profiles that have been distributed via MDM? Obviously, you would not want your devices to access corporate data on public network, because it increases the chance of snooping and other kind of network attacks. To prevent this, you can ensure that your devices connect only to those Wi-Fi that you have configured using MDM. So I'll take you quickly to the MDM server. I'll create a profile. So let me say create an Android profile. I'll provide a name. There's already one provided. Go to restrictions and then network and roaming. So I'll select this option, connect to Wi-Fi only if distributed via MDM. When I select this option, only those Wi-Fi policies that I've distributed via MDM will be the ones to which the device connects to. Always remember that you first need to push the Wi-Fi policy before you can push this restriction. Otherwise, the device will not connect to any Wi-Fi network. Fifth scenario, how can you prevent sensitive corporate content from being displayed on the device lock screen? A lot of times notifications are shown on the lock screen, and this might contain sensitive data. So you need to restrict this. So how can you do that? I'll take you back to the MDM server to explain this one. So display settings is one where you can choose to restrict screen timeout and all that stuff. And similarly, you can choose, let me quickly go to device functionality, where you can restrict smart clipboard and screen capture, and as well as restricting camera blocks to analog. This brings us to the end of the training session. If you like this, you need to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. You need to rate us on the survey that will be shown once you close the webinar session. In case you found our training sessions to be useful, you can spread the love on various social media. The next training schedule will be related to app management and device security and will be held on March 10th, the same time. Thank you for joining in. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you again.